The Bully of Brocas Court. Written by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. That year, it was in 1878, the South Midland Yeomanry were out near Luton, and the real question which appealed to every man in the great camp was not how to prepare for a possible European war, but the far more vital one, how to get a man who could stand up for 10 rounds to Farrier Sergeant Burton. Slogger Burton was a fine, upstanding 14 stone of bone and brawn, with a smack in either hand which would leave any ordinary mortal senseless. A match must be found for him somewhere, or his head would outgrow his dragoon helmet. Therefore, Sir Fred Milburn, better known as Mumbles, was dispatched to London to find if among the fancy there was no one who would make a journey in order to take down the number of the bold dragoon. They were bad days, those in the prize ring. The old knuckle fighting had died out in scandal and disgrace, smothered by the pestilent crowd of betting men and ruffians of all sorts who hung upon the edge of the movement and brought disgrace and ruin upon the decent fighting men, who were often humble heroes whose gallantry has never been surpassed. An honest sportsman who desired to see a fight was usually set upon by villains, against whom he had no redress, since he was himself engaged on what was technically an illegal action. He was stripped in the open street, his purse taken, and his head split open if he ventured to resist. The ringside could only be reached by men who were prepared to fight their way there with cudgels and hunting crops. No wonder that the classic sport was attended now by those only who had nothing to lose. On the other hand, the era of the reserved building and the legal glove fight had not yet arisen, and the cult was in a strange intermediate condition. It was impossible to regulate it and equally impossible to abolish it, since nothing appeals more directly and powerfully to the average Briton. Therefore, there were scrambling contests in stable yards and barns, hurried visits to France, secret meetings at dawn in wild parts of the country, and all manner of evasions and experiments. The men themselves became as unsatisfactory as their surroundings. There could be no honest open contest, and the loudest bragger talked his way to the top of the list. Only across the Atlantic had the huge figure of John Lawrence Sullivan appeared, who was destined to be the last of the earlier system and the first of the later one. Things being in this condition, the sporting yeomanry captain found it no easy matter among the boxing saloons and the sporting pubs of London to find a man who could be relied upon to give a good account of the huge famous sergeant. Heavyweights were at a premium. Finally, his choice fell upon Alf Stevens of Kentish Town, an excellent rising middleweight who had never yet known defeat and had indeed some claims to the championship. His professional experience and craft would surely make up for the 3 stone of weight which separated him from the formidable dragoon. It was in this hope that Sir Fred Milburn engaged him and proceeded to convey him in his dog cart behind a pair of spanking greys to the camp of the yeomen. They were to start one evening, drive up the great North Road, sleep at St. Albans, and finish their journey next day. The prize fighter met the sporting baronet at the Golden Cross, where Betts, the little groom, was standing at the head of the spirited horses. Stevens, a pale faced, clean cut young fellow, mounted beside his employer and waved his hand to a little knot of fighting men, rough, collarless, reefer coated fellows who had gathered to bid their comrade goodbye. Good luck, Alf, came in a hoarse chorus as the boy released the horses' heads and sprang in behind, while the high dog cart swung swiftly round the curve into Trafalgar Square. Sir Frederick was so busy steering among the traffic in Oxford Street and the Edgware Road that he had little thought for anything else. But when he got into the edges of the country near Hendon, and the hedges had at last taken the place of this endless panorama of brick dwellings, he let his horses go easy with a loose rein while he turned his attention to the young man at his side. He had found him by correspondence and recommendation, so that he had some curiosity now in looking him over. Twilight was already falling, and the light dim, but what the baronet saw pleased him well. The man was a fighter every inch, clean cut, deep chested, with a long straight cheek, and deep set eye which goes with an obstinate courage. Above all, he was a man who had never yet met his master, and was still upheld by the deep, sustaining confidence which is never quite the same after a single defeat. The baronet chuckled as he realized what a surprise packet was being carried north for the farrier sergeant. I suppose you are in some sort of training, Stevens, he remarked. Turning to his companion, yes, sir, I am fit to fight for my life. So I should judge by the look of you. I live regular all the time, sir, but I was matched against Mike Connor for this last weekend and scaled down to 11-4. Then he paid forfeit, and here I am at the top of my form. That's lucky. You will need it all against a man who has a pull of 3 stone and 4 inches. The young man smiled. I have given greater odds than that, sir. I dare say, but he is a game man as well. Well, sir, one can but do one's best. The baronet liked the modest but assured tone of the young pugilist. Suddenly, an amusing thought struck him, and he burst out laughing. By Jove, he cried, what a lark if the bully is out tonight! Alf Stevens pricked up his ears. Who might he be, sir? Well, that's what the folk are asking. Some say they have seen him, and some say he's a fairy tale. But there's good evidence that he is a real man with a pair of rare good fists and leave their marks behind him. And where might he live? On this very road. It's between Finchley and Elstree, as I have beard. There are 2 chaps, and they come out on nights when the moon is at full and challenge the passers-by to fight in the old style. One fights and the other picks up. By George, the fellow can fight too, but in all accounts. Chaps have been found in the morning with their faces all cut to ribbons to show that the bully had been at work upon them. Alf Stevens was full of interest. I have always wanted to try an old style battle, sir. But it never chanced to come my way. I believe it would suit me better than the gloves. Then you won't refuse the bully? Refuse him? I would go 10 miles to meet him. By George, it would be great, cried the baronet. Well, the moon is at the full, and the place should be about here. If he is as good as you say, Stevens marked, he should be known in the ring unless he is just an amateur who amuses himself like that. Some think he is an ostler, or maybe a racing man from the training stables over yonder. Where there are horses, there is boxing. If you can believe the accounts, there is something a bit queer and outlandish about the fellow. Hi, look out, damn you, look out.